Hello, Doc Severson here for the Theo Night Report for Thursday, June 22nd. Well, we're seeing it happen again. This is the S&P percentage of stocks above the 200-day moving average. Okay, so for the entire 500 member of the S&P 500, the percentage of those that are actually above their 200-day moving average, we're starting to see this diverge back down again. All right, so this is just a weekly chart. Now we can also look at the 50. So I'm going to change this over to the 50-day moving average. And you can also see that, again, we're all-time highs again on the S&P 500. And the fact that we're now printing these lower numbers, what this means is that fewer and fewer stocks are participating in the rally as we go further and further higher. Okay, this is very, very normal. We've seen this before, I don't know how many times, but it usually marks a slowing of the trend, if not the next transition into volatility. Now, what's most at risk is indices like the Nasdaq. So this is the Nasdaq futures here. We can start to see this very characteristic head and shoulders pattern, perhaps setting up that right shoulder. Now, you can see just how extensive this rally has been in the Nasdaq since the election. So all the way up here, this trend line has held firm and fast all the way through here. What's typically going to happen with trend lines like this? Again, so I'm not one of these people that thinks that, the Nasdaq is going to end up down here by tomorrow morning, right? What I've been talking about consistently is that I think that we're probably going to see this move to a slightly larger range. We're going to see more volatility within that range, but this is precisely what the charts need right now, is kind of a resting period, which is going to offer a little bit more volatility and a few more opportunities. We'll perhaps even seeing, we can hope for this, but we can perhaps see a little bit higher implied volatility. So we might be able to actually sell something in the options chain once again. So what this will also mean on the daily chart is this trend line will eventually get punched out to the downside. I don't think it's going to be that violent, though. I think probably the worst that we're going to see is it just sort of drift sideways down through here. Watch for this to create a lower high. In fact, let me zoom in on this so you can get a better sense. If this rolls over here and then subsequently punches through that trend line, this is going to print a lower high on the daily chart. Now, this by itself is not that important. What happens is when we start to propagate that trend to the larger time frames. So in other words, if this just rolls over down here, prints a lower high, what this means is that we're going to see a weekly swing down. That, again, by itself is no big deal because we can bounce from there, and that just creates the next higher low. But what happens is if this bounces from here and then creates a lower high on the weekly chart, then we've got more interesting market conditions then, because this is going to lead to a trend on the weekly chart, leads to an actual pullback on the monthly chart. When was the last time we had a pullback on the monthly chart? Not that often, okay? And they're usually fairly important when we see at least a pullback on the monthly chart. Again, not a bear market. We'd have to have quite a bit of movement to see something like that. But perhaps, we can hope, perhaps even a correction. But it all starts from this propagating sense of market timeframes, starting with the smallest ones, which in this case, what I'm showing here is just the daily chart. But it actually starts even much smaller than that, with smaller timeframes. Okay, so it propagates upward. Watch the propagation. That will tell you what's going on, so you're not always behind the 8 ball following the herd. One of the setups that's actually been working quite well for us lately is what's called the RSI 2. Now, what I did was I took Larry Connor's original strategy, which was the Wells Wilder RSI, which is set for a period of 2.0, and you're looking for the price to pull back and make the oscillator actually drop below the level of 5.0. But originally, Larry only set this thing up for the S&P 500 only. And I thought if we're going to bring this and scan for it across different stocks that are out there, across the wider universe of optionable stocks, we need a little bit more confirmation on that. And so what I decided to use is the fractal energy indicator on this as well too. So what I want is not only an oversold indication on the oscillator itself, but also an effect of linearity. So the fractal energy indicator shows linearity of a trend, and I wanted to see a very, very linear, exhausting movement to the downside, which is highly likely to set up some type of a bounce, some kind of mean reversion. Even if it's a dead cat bounce, I don't care. That's all I need. So an example of this was Apple. So Apple had fired recently, and we got in, got out on this. VMware is another one that recently offered a nice signal in here. So VMware, you can see how this fired the oscillator and also showed exhaustion to the downside. So VMware, that was another one. We've had Caterpillar fire actually several times recently. So back here in May, fired and got us out within a few days. And then recently at the beginning of June, also fired again and popped out to the upside. So you can see generally we're picking on stocks that are in a significant uptrend. Now this may not be working as we get into a corrective period, but I want to show you what's working here today. And also GLD, which is a trade that we got out of today after 2 days. So again, gold pulling down really hard into not only, so you can see the importance of having the two signals here that kind of stack up and add the probabilities to each other. But we were in 2 days ago and out today. Is this a trend change? No, it's not. This is nothing more than really a dead cat bounce. But this is all we're looking for to be able to make a decent 30% on each one of these trades. Hey folks, before you go, I've got a special offer I want to bring your attention to. This is our 2-day live TheoTrade Traders Retreat, which is going to be in Scottsdale, Arizona, with Don Kaufman, myself, Doc Severson, Jeff Bierman, and Tony Rago. Now, this is going to be Thursday and Friday, Saturday, September 7th, 8th, and 9th in Scottsdale, Arizona. And I know that seems like it's a long way away, but it's really right around the corner. So this is going to be our major event for the year. And as you can see, the price for this is $1,997. Now, think about what this includes just for a second here. So it's not only the live events on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday that we have out there at this event, but this also includes 1 full year of our live mentorship. So Total Theo, which is our 12-month mentorship, is included for that, all for the price of $19.97. Now, if you don't know what Total Theo is or what that's all about, first of all, there's a live element to it. We're basically live about 6 hours a day through video and audio in the chat room itself, as well as you can see all the archives that we have for every month that we've done this, but also the classes that we do. So we can look at some of the classes that we have done live for our students. So in other words, if you want to know about iron condors or high probability in-out spreads or weekly options or calendar spreads or fractal energy trading or trading a small account or doing weekly diagonal spreads, pairs trading, trading futures contracts, using fibs in your trading, trading tetrapod spreads, you name it, we have done a class in it over the last couple of years. These will all be available to you as soon as you sign up for this class. Now, the workshop itself features our favorite material and the material that's most requested by our students, such as long and short volatility strategies, neutral options trading strategies, including pairs, calendars, straddles, strangles, how to set it up in a workable portfolio, how to position size, how to work on your mindset, and how to add technical analysis to increase the probabilities of your trading, how to build a trading plan, and a proven formula for day trading as well too. You name it, just about every aspect of trading, whether it's stocks, options, futures, building a portfolio, being able to day trade, being able to trade for a living is something that we're going to be talking about during this 2-day class. And of course, it does come with the Total Theo 12-month membership. And to give you an idea what the event schedule is like, first of all, on Thursday night, the 7th, we're going to be having a happy hour with you guys. So meeting everybody in person, you're going to get a chance to rub elbows with not only the instructors out there, but other expert traders that are part of our live trading room every single day. And on Friday and Saturday, we're going to be doing, of course, morning session, afternoon session, and breakfast is served for those of staying in the hotel. You can see the conference room we're going to be doing this at. One thing I'd like to point out to you is if you've been through seminars like this before, sometimes we wedge everybody into these things, and it's so uncomfortable. By the end of 2 days, you're ready to go. We're going to have nice chairs for you guys, so we're going to make you very, very comfortable. It's going to be an excellent facility. You can see how beautiful this place is, and you're going to want to stay around for maybe a couple of days after that, maybe extend your stay into the weekend. This is such a nice place. So full day Friday, full day Saturday, rubbing elbows with us, talking to us about questions that you have for trading as well. Full breakfast, lunch, cocktail party, discount, TheoTrade group room rate, Wi-Fi, resort fee is going to be waived for those staying at the hotel, discount on spa services. You can go play golf out there. This is going to be a great event. It's going to be a high-class event, and it's going to be absolutely packed with information. The ability to talk to our instructors out there and really walk away with a full trading plan and give you confidence to be able to hit this market running when it starts again in the most important part of the year, which is the beginning of the fourth quarter here as we wrap up 2017. So hope to see you out there.